So we ended up actually able to get the rear of the leaf spring on with the shackle. Those are just kind of finger tight right now because I do want to throw some thread locker on them or anti-seize. Gonna Google and see what the common theme for that is. I had to throw a whole bunch of White Lightning grease on it and able to get those bushings through. It wasn't easy until I did that. We did run into our first ever part problem, where I'd say we had the entirely wrong part. Let me show you. Try to keep the angle here steady. Alright, so for the front eye, I got a kit, and this bolt is just not long enough. Let me see if I change the angle here really quick. There we go. Oh, so the eye bolt that I have, entirely too short. As you can see, if it goes through the frame, it doesn't even make it all the way through the front eye of the leaf spring. So these are probably, I don't know, about 2 inches too short. Alright, I just got you on the hood here. Good. So that bolt issue I was having, this one being too short. I was going to go and check the one that I took out, but I forgot I cut that thing all up. So I didn't have enough to really get the size right. I'm just going to run over to my local Tractor Supply Co. and see if they have something a little bit longer. Thread pitch, size, everything seems to be correct. Just the length. So I'll bring this with me, and I'm probably going to go about 2 inches longer or so. Just have plenty of room. Actually, I might have to jump under there and double check. 2 inches could potentially be too long. But anyway, this is the first time I've ever had the wrong part. I typically try to stick with a company called Maryland Mustang in Millersville, Maryland. Dan over there has been a great asset for me. Been able to learn a ton. Had all my parts in a very, very timely manner, and they have been awesome customer service wise. Highly recommend them. So it's kind of strange that I got the wrong bolt from them, because they have always been 100% correct. So I wonder if I maybe misspoke and told them the wrong thing, or if there's a difference between maybe like V6 and V8 cars, or 64s to 66s, or something like that. I really don't know. So I'll be giving them a call, seeing what they recommend, if they have anything in stock, or if there is, if there are different sizes. Pretty sure I'm probably in the wrong here, again, because their customer service has been top notch. Can't recommend them enough. So I think it was probably just a mistake on my end ordering, which is very likely. So right now I'm just gonna run to the hardware store, like previously mentioned, and get some new bolts and get that leaf spring on. So I just went to the local Tractor Supply Co. Near me, and the issue I was having was with this front bolt for the eye bolts, or I'm sorry, for the front leaf to go through that front eye through the frame. They were too short. They're about 5 inches, and then I went down to the store, bought these. These were a little over 6 inches. I just threw it on the car, and everything seems to be working fine. It's definitely long enough. So after doing a little bit of research, it looks like the 68s, this is recessed out for this front eye, so it doesn't go all the way through the frame. So your 64s through 67s, you're gonna need a longer, like 6-inch bolt for that front leaf. And I got a tape measure here, just a little guy to show. The new one's about 6 1/4, and the one I got's about 4 3/4. So I think maybe when I ordered these and talked with the guys over at Maryland Mustang, I might have told them a 68 instead of a 67, or something lost in translation. So like I said earlier, I think that was definitely my fault, just because they've always been really, really good with me. So probably my fault they're ordering. It was a couple bucks, $3-4, and I bought some extra washers in case they were too long, and some extra nuts just in case the threads or something were different. So I'll get you guys out there on the time lapse and keep going. Okay, so here we are under the car with that longer eye bolt. And as you can see, we are all the way through. There's no way that other one would have fit. The slight issue that I do have is you can see this rubber bushing here. There's a lot more there than factory, so it kind of is, I mean, it sticks out a little bit longer. It's kind of like cone shaped almost. So that kind of made it kind of difficult to get it up in here, even though mine was bent a little bit from me trying to get it out earlier and I wasn't really entirely sure what to do. So just be mindful of that. It is definitely thicker than the stock version. And next I'm going to be installing the spring plate over the axle, and I'm just going to put you guys on time lapse for that. Alright guys, here is the finished release spring installed. On the driver's side, we got our new Scott Drake bushings shackle kit. Alright, and then front eye there, that is some red Loctite. I'm going to go back and paint that chipped up portion too. Yeah, so it turned out good. So had a big scare and a big whoops. The last time lapse I posted, you could probably see that the car fell. It well, it did, and it caused some damage, which is fine. It's a project. So basically, the tire on that side was tucked up way too far. I couldn't get it undone, so I tried jacking up this side to get the axle, you know, a little bit more level. Unfortunately, where I'm working on my car is in front of my house, and I don't have a level playing field. You know, I'm working out in the street, so a little limited there. But I really thought, because of just the difference, that this side over here, if I could just only, you know, jack up this side, it would get it down. And it did. It got down a little bit, but just not enough. So seeing that the axle was clearly still connected, I was like, okay, cool, let me go through, disconnect the axle to the leaf spring on this side, even though I was trying to do one at a time, just so I could reference the other side, have it completely done, and move from there. So in doing so, I took off the plate. Oh, dang. Yeah, so I took off the spring plate on the passenger side. And when I took that off, the pressure, obviously from the spring, came off a little bit, sprung, hit me in the arm. I mean, luckily, I kept the shackle in the front and the rear, so I didn't really think it was going to move much. It moved a little bit more than I definitely thought it was going to, because it smacked me in the arm, but not bad. You know, nothing to worry about really. But where I had the axles on the jack stands, that meant that they were no longer supported, which means the car fell. The car fell. This tire over here got sunken up way up into the quarter panel, and the biggest issue was the angle then on the rear axle, which pushed up into the trunk, which, as you can see, was already Swiss cheese and rusted, so I was planning on replacing it anyway. However, I was going to focus on getting it running a little bit better and driving, and probably patch some of that, but at this point it just needs to be replaced. And it pushed up the gas tank, so the gas tank brackets are pushed up a ton right in there, all through there now. You can see it's the shape of the diff. Gas tank's leaking, which, if anybody has a good fix for that, let me know. The gas tank has been leaking ever since I installed it. The car came with the gas tank, installed it. Been having a ton of issues with leaking. Tried, I think 3, maybe even 4 lock ring sets from various auto parts stores, still leaking. Tried the trick with the Vaseline or the grease. I did both. The gasket for the fuel sending unit to keep it in place. Did that. I've put the silicone like gasket maker stuff in there on top of the gasket, without the gasket. I feel like I've tried every combination. So either I'm getting cheap stuff maybe, or I'm thinking it's just me installing it wrong. So if anybody has any helpful suggestions, let me know. I'll take them all. It stopped leaking for a while, but now it's leaking again, which brings in this point. Now I'm going to be working on the passenger side leaf spring, because, well, I really can't get the car down anywhere right now. The driver's side required that I grinded a ton on the front eye. Well, as you can see, if I'm grinding up there kind of over by the jack, and I have leaking open fuel right back here, I mean, that's 2 feet away, 2.5 feet away, sparks are flying. So I'm hoping that I can get this rear one out, maybe cut through the eye on the front with just some saw blades instead of the grinder, and maybe I'm hoping I can push that out, hammer it out while this kind of drips. I'm going to clean all this up, but it's going to continue to drip, and hopefully I don't need to get out the grinder, but if I do, I'm going to do something with this gas tank. Either drain it, which anyone does have a drain plug, but I have about probably 10 gallons of fuel in there, so it's a lot. Or clean it all up and maybe put a welding blanket down in between. Welding blanket or some cardboard, though it has a few different layers to get through if it were to do anything. I'm not entirely sure. So that's the update. Side comparison. So those are the old shackles leaf springs, and you can see they stick down a ton versus the new ones, which I believe are reverse eye. They're up and out of the way significantly. Oh, there is some white lightning grease. If I go through there, you can see the new Scott Drake shackles and bushings. So very excited to get this thing going, see how it feels. I can only imagine it's going to feel a million times better. So keep going. What I came up with to separate the gas tank from where I'm going to have to grind. I got a couple boxes. I just kind of shoved them up in there and taped them up into place, kind of make a wall. And same on this side around the wheel. I'm going all the way up into the axle, because I'm going to be working on this front eyelet bolt right here. So I think that should be good. If anything flings to the back, it should hit those boxes. And the way that the grinder spins, it should be pushing everything towards the front of the car anyway. But yeah. Okay, here's where we ended up for the night. Already shown off this side, the leaf spring and shock plate, but I lifted up the shock plate to get the rear shock actually mounted. It was just sitting there before. I went ahead and painted the U-bolts. I don't remember if that was in the last video or not. Just got the exhaust off. My neighbors will let me. Yeah, I built this little wall. There's some cardboard, even though all my sparks from the grinder were flying that way. Kind of just like the first one, had to take off the leaf And then I was trying to go a little bit more delicate this time. And this bolt, I couldn't even move this one over here. It's definitely worse. So I cut off the leaf, started grinding that bolt. And that's where I ended up, but it's about 8 o'clock my time, almost. Or maybe it is 8 right now, pretty close anyway. So that means I'm done for the night. Don't want to be making any more loud noises or anything, so call that, and I'll get to it tomorrow and keep chipping away at it. So welcome back. It's my really like 3rd day working on this. I just was able to get the front eye out. So anybody who's not too familiar with the process, essentially it sits in there like that. What I do is I got in there with my grinder, took off the eye from the actual leaf spring itself. That way I can get my grinder in there. The first time I was trying to take it easy and not really grind away too much stuff. No, you just need to get in there and go for it. So then I was able to get the grinder in on this side, and I actually got the bolt enough to where I could push this outer side out. But this inside, I mean, that thing was fused in there. It took me about an hour of grinding away. Went through quite a few blades. From the blades I have are just from Harbor Freight because they're like 50 cents a piece or something. So what I ended up doing was I did take off a 4.5-inch grinder, and it just wasn't enough room to really get in there where you're working at to actually get contact with that guy. And as you can probably see there, I could almost get to it, but I couldn't quite really get in there enough to get the collar and everything away with that 4.5-inch cutoff wheel. Once I moved to 5, it was still very tight and getting in there. Really, if you had a 7-inch, I mean, it would be very easy work. I went through, this is just a metal blade that I tried on my reciprocating saw, and I went through 6 different blades. Basically made no progress, especially on that hardened steel sleeve with those blades. I mean, none. I was spraying some WD-40 up in there trying to keep it cool. And until I got with the grinder, I mean, it made no progress for a second. The driver's side took so long. I did have to take off the guard off my grinder. That is something I wouldn't recommend unless you are very, very comfortable with your grinder and feeling experienced enough to do that. Because obviously not having a guard, you can get your fingers in there. Some of the things that I like to wear for some protective equipment is I wear my welding hood that has a grind setting, and I also wear my welding gloves, and then I wear at a minimum a hoodie when I'm doing all this, and I tuck my sleeves of my hoodie into my gloves, and then I can also kind of pull up my hoodie, pull the strings a little tight and cover my neck, and then I'll see the hood on. That's made a huge difference in staying comfortable. It's very hot, unfortunately, but being comfortable, not getting burned is much better. And it also provides me some protection because I work out in the street. Well, luckily, none of my neighbors really care too much, but you know, there's always sticks and rocks and every little thing, and a little rock hurts a lot when you're laying on it moving around, and it always seems to poke you at just the right angle. So but anyway, we got that one off, so I'm going to go ahead and clean some stuff up, wire wheel the eyelet where it mounts through the frame, which we now have the right bolts. Yeah, so you can see me with the grinder kind of missed a little bit and hopping around. Just is what it is. Also, it looks like I still gotta pull that out. I mean, I literally just got it off, guys. Yeah, so here's the rest of that sleeve. It goes up kind of like that, and then you got to grind through that. So I mean, it's very, very difficult. But yeah, I'm gonna wire wheel all that, throw my favorite roll bar and chassis paint up there, and while I let that dry, I'm gonna start prepping up getting the rear shackle bushings out because they're still there. I haven't got them off yet, so I will not put you guys on a time lapse or anything for that because this video is already getting super long. So I'll just get off and work and get going with it.